Many students find improvisation challenging, so they'll find themselves asking questions like, what should I play? What scale goes maybe with this chord? Is it... Okay, now how can I make it sound less robotic? Or how can I be more free and more creative when I'm playing? You know, sometimes students will hear someone play a line which they like, so they might hear... And then they're like, ooh, that's what I'm missing. I just need to learn this line and then somehow incorporate it into my solos. Often I find that the thing that students often think is the problem is hardly ever the problem at all. The real problem is usually something quite simple but quite deep. Most of the time, I've noticed that students simply lack the fundamentals. They see the fundamentals as something for beginners, or they just see fundamentals as exercises. You know, something that you just have to learn quickly, or as quickly as possible so that you can then move on to the real jazz or to the cool stuff. Ooh, real improvisation. What they miss is the fact that the fundamentals are actually the real jazz. The fundamentals are the cool stuff. And as musicians, one of the things that we often forget is we have to be fit enough to improvise. I often hear people say, you know what, when you're improvising, you don't really need to know anything. Just get your instrument and express yourself. And others will say, you know what, I'm not going to learn theory because that's going to block my creativity. It's going to get in the way of my improvisation. And people also say, you know what, you're not supposed to think when you're improvising. And while there's a lot of truth in those statements, I think they're particularly true about the process of improvising. But for the process of practicing, this is a completely different thing. So improvising or playing and practicing, those are two separate activities. And for practice, which is where basically we get better at doing certain things, we absolutely must think. We must use this information until it feels natural to do certain things. So during practice, not during playing or improvising, during practice, that's really when we develop our fitness for improvisation. So the main question is this: how do you become musically fit? And over the years, I've developed this thing that I call my jazz piano pyramid. In fact, I've got a pyramid here to inspire me. All right, I'm just going to keep it there all the time as a reminder. So at the top of the pyramid is what everybody wants, and that is solo jazz piano, things like improvisation, things like freedom, things like creativity, because you know what, when we listen to recordings, that's what we hear. But you can't really build the top of the pyramid first. It needs a foundation. And in my opinion, one of the best ways to build that foundation is by accompanying singers. So not only, you don't just do this when you really want to become an accompanist. You do this because accompanying actually develops almost every skill that you'll need later for things like improvisation and things like solo piano. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you what I mean by this. So here is the lead sheet for the jazz standard called Summertime. Now, I love using this tune because almost everything that we need can be found in this tune. Okay, you're going to find these things in dozens and thousands of pieces. So first, we're going to analyze its harmony, just like an accompanist, a jazz accompanist. So instead of thinking about G minor 7 and D minor 7 and A7, we should really be thinking that firstly, this song is in a minor key. So we're going to play chord 1 of that minor key. In this case, it happens to be D minor, but it could be any key really. So all we need to know is it's chord 1. So summertime, dee 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 dee. Okay, so we're playing chord 1 for basically for 4 bars, and then we're going to go to chord 4 for 2 bars. And chord 4 in this case is G minor 7, right? Because we're in the key of D minor, right? Once you've played that, we're going to play a 2-5, which is going to take us back to 1, which is home. So there's the 2, E minor 7 flat 5, and then A7, and then this takes us back to D minor 7. Okay, so instead of us memorizing individual chords and all these letter names, we are recognizing functions. Like, what is the function of each chord? So we're saying, okay, chord 1 goes to chord 4, and then we play a 2-5-1. Okay, so this is incredibly important because singers rarely perform songs in the original key, you know, because their choice of key really depends on their vocal range. So sooner or later, someone will say, can we do Summertime in F minor, you know, or can we do it, let's take it down maybe to B minor. And if all you've done is memorize chord names, then you'll struggle. But if you understand harmonic function, then transposing is going to become so much easier because the progression never changes, whatever key you're in. It's always going to be chord 1, chord 4, and then 2-5-1. So if I took this, let's say, to the key of C minor, Summertime to dee da dee 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 beta. That's chord 1, right? Here's chord 4. Fish are jumping, and then I play a 2-5-1. Okay, I could have been in the key of A flat minor. Summertime, da da dee dee da. There's chord 1, right? Chord 4, da 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 da. And the chord is 2-5-1. Ba da da dee. Okay, so this never changes, whatever key you're in. So thinking like this, what it teaches you is to think harmonically instead of thinking about one chord at a time. So this is the first lesson that accompanying teaches you. Your improvisation also depends on this way of thinking, because it's interesting. Some people think, you know what, you're just pressing keys and then just playing random notes, and it's all about how you're feeling and you're just expressing yourself. But I've got a different view or definition of what improvisation actually is. I believe that improvisation is composing. And this is not my original idea, by the way. I once heard Bill Evans say something along these lines, that, you know, when you're improvising, it's pretty much the same thing that people like Bach and Mozart and Beethoven did. The only difference is we do it instantly. So we do it in the moment.
But I feel that jazz is not so much a style as a process of making music. It's the process of making music, making 1 minute's music in 1 minute's time. Whereas when you compose, you can make 1 minute's music and take 3 months to compose 1 minute's music. Now that's the only basic difference.
So if you're going to become a good improviser, you need to learn compositional tools. You need to think like a composer. Okay, so the better you understand things like harmony, the underlying harmony of a tune, then the easier it's going to be for you to create or compose your own melodies, particularly melodies that make sense. And if you want to tell stories through your playing and to be really, really expressive, not just closing your eyes and hoping for the best, then you must think like a composer. So understanding harmony and being able to transpose songs, very, very important. Now, let's imagine a singer walks into the room, right? And they want to do Summertime. If I simply play the chords exactly as they are written, so if I go, Summertime, and the living is easy, da 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 da. Okay, I guess that worked, you know, the first time, but after one chorus, this is going to become predictable, and it's also going to become boring. I think that the singer deserves better than this. The audience deserves better than this. So, as accompanists, we basically have 3 ways of making our chords sound interesting. Okay, I'm going to share these with you. So, first, we can create some rhythmic variety. Okay, so our chords don't always have to be played on beat 1, like what I was doing there. We can basically sometimes anticipate the chords. So what I mean by anticipate is we would play a chord earlier than we normally do. So I'm actually going to write some of these things down here. So imagine we have beats 1 up to 4, right? So we've got beat 1 over here, and then beat 2, and then 3, and then 4. In my case, I was playing my chord right here on beat 1. Okay. In this case, D minor 7. Right there on the first beat. What I could do is I could say, hang on. What if I played my D minor 7 just before beat 1? What if I played it like somewhere over here? Right? And then I carry on with it. So instead of beat number 1, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So I'm playing actually on the and of beat 4. So there's a little and here before I go to 1. I'm thinking and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. That right there is what we call anticipating. And that's just one of the tricks that we could use. The other thing that we could do is we could use delay. And delay means instead of playing on beat 1, I could play my D minor here. Okay, so on the and of beat 1. So I could be thinking 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. So I'm playing my D minor 7 on the and of beat 2. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense there, that sometimes we can anticipate notes and sometimes we can delay them. Okay, so feel free to explore those ideas when you're playing chords. It's just going to give your playing a little bit more variety and a lot more interest. Okay, so we're saying we can anticipate chords, we can delay them. Another thing we could do is we can leave some space in between our chords. We can syncopate as well, so that instead of playing chords on the beat, we can emphasize chords in unusual places. Okay, so I could possibly play my summertime like this. So 1, 2, 3, summertime, when I needed it, da da 3, 4, dee da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da, 2, 3, 4, na 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 na. Okay, so what am I doing there? I'm just trying out all these ideas. And sometimes the thing that I'm doing there, which I noticed, is I'm actually repeating or playing the chord several times, just rhythmically. I'm just adding some rhythm. The chords not changing. The chords are not changing. The harmony stays the same. The only thing that I'm changing or messing around with is the rhythm. And rhythm is actually one of the biggest differences between a beginner accompanist and an experienced one. And inside my Jazz Piano Lab course, inside the Jazz Piano Lab, we spend a lot of time developing this thing called rhythm. And I walk you through it step by step until it feels very comfortable and very natural to play various rhythms. Okay, so rhythm is what brings music to life. You know, it's what makes, like, you're playing different from, let's say, when you listen to chords played by software. Okay, so rhythm or rhythmic interest is the first thing that we can do to make our chords sound interesting. The second thing that we can do is we can take simple chords and make them complex. So let's take a dominant 7 chord, for instance. I'm actually going to use that A7. Okay. So what I could do, right, if I want to play A, in fact, I'm going to give you an inside tip. This tip, I share it in the Jazz Piano Lab. If you want to play any dominant 7 chord, right, if you go up a half step from your chord, so I'm going up a half step from A to A flat, to B flat, if I play the chord that's known as B flat minor 6, this is quite a gorgeous dominant 7 sound. So I'm taking a simple chord, B flat minor 6, but playing it over an A. In fact, I'm going to play a shell in my left. And there is what we call some jazz harmony, right? Beauty of this is I can even invert this chord. Okay, so man, let me actually play this in summertime and you can hear it in the context of the song. Listen to my chord. Isn't that interesting? Right? So suddenly my simple minor 6 chord sounds like a really jazzy dominant 7 chord, right? And I've made it richer by just by simply creating it from like a half step above. Okay. But don't worry about this, or don't overthink it. The main point is really that simple chords can be turned into complex chords, and there are various ways to do this. And you know where I explain this in detail, right? In the Jazz Piano Lab, right? So I'm not necessarily replacing the harmony. I'm simply decorating it, you know. Like even this, you're like, oh, what did you play on that D minor 7? Owen, what did you play? And I mean, the truth is, all I'm playing, if I remove my left hand, you can see that you're familiar with this chord. This looks like an F minor 7. I mean, F major 7. But in my left hand, I just played a D there. And suddenly I've got some interesting sounds. So chords, or complex sounding chords, are really simple chords in disguise. That's the main message. All right. The third thing that we can do to chords to make them sound more interesting is we can use inversions. And for me, this is really where life starts getting interesting, because instead of jumping around the keyboard, let's say you're playing your D minor 7, instead of going from there, or from this D minor 7 to that G7, I can simply go from there to G minor 7 over there. Or I could have played my D minor 7 like this, so that when it's time to go to G minor 7, I'll go there. All right. So inversions create this thing called voice leading, right? Where you start playing the closest possible inversion to your chord. If this was my D minor 7 and I want to go to G minor 7, I'll just go there. If I'm playing this one, I'll just go there. Right. So every chord is really connecting naturally. I've noticed that a number of students, they often think that inversion practice is just a beginner exercise, and I couldn't disagree more, because inversions are one of the most important things that you'll ever learn, because eventually those become your jazz voicings. You know, for example, if I take this G minor 7 and invert it, and then play something like an E flat in my left hand, it's the same notes, but a completely different chord. Imagine playing Misty, right? Here I'm actually playing an inversion of a C minor 7 chord over an A flat. Okay, and the lesson is really not how to play Misty, but really the bottom line is you can start inverting chords, especially these simple chords, and you can make your harmony sound interesting. Just could have done that to Summertime. Summertime. Da da dee dee dee. Dee da da da. Dee da dee da dee da. Ooh, I want that chord. Okay, so we start getting completely different and interesting sounds. And that's why I tell students not to rush through inversions during their practice, because professional voicings are often, like I've already said, these professional voicings are simply hiding inside the inversions that you already know. Okay, so it's time well spent. Okay, let's take maybe a little closer look at the inversions that we used earlier, right? If I played one of the notes of the chord one by one, so if I take, let's say D minor 7, in fact, no, let me take an E minor 7 flat 5. Okay, if I took these notes and played them one by one, I'm already starting to get some interesting things happening here, right? And then if I play my A7 notes one by one, and then my D minor 7 notes one. So from playing this little 2-5-1 using inversions, that already sounds like a jazz line. Or all I'm doing really is I'm playing my chords using inversions. Remember that chord? That B flat minor 6? Okay, so once you start playing these notes one by one, they're starting to sound like real jazz lines. And sometimes students think that improvising is just pressing random keys, but that's not true. You're actually going to use chord tones to outline the harmony. And I mean, what better way to learn your chord tones than to simply accompany singers and be playing chords all the time? Okay, so another huge benefit to accompanying singers is songs teach you harmony. So you're playing with singers, but actually every song that you're going to play is going to teach you certain harmonic formulas. I mean, if you look at this progression, right, I've just been playing a minor 2-5-1. Once you recognize the sound, you're going to start hearing it everywhere. So let's say in a song like Blue Bossa, here it is. You're like, oh, that's a minor 2-5-1, you know. Or in Autumn Leaves, there's a minor 2-5-1. Okay, or you could be thinking Fly Me to the Moon, right? So fly me to let me know what it minor 2-5-1 sounds like. Okay, so same formula, but we find this in different songs. And This is why experienced jazz musicians learn tunes way faster than beginners. So they're not memorizing hundreds of unrelated chords or even thinking about hundreds of songs. They're simply recognizing familiar harmonic sequences, right? So the more songs you accompany, then the more patterns that are going to become part of your musical vocabulary. Okay, so eventually you're going to stop thinking about, oh, that's an E minor 7 flat 5 going to A7, then to D minor 7. Instead, you're simply going to hear 2 5 1, minor 2 5 1. Once you can hear that, I mean, that's what we call fluency. So you're able to play, but fluently and with freedom. Now, I want you to just think about maybe everything that we've developed just from this one simple song from Summertime. So we learned about harmony, we learned chord function, we learned about inversions, we even improved our voice leading using those inversions. We explored rhythm, and then we started discovering some richer jazz voicings. You know, we even created some melodic lines from just the chord tones alone. Okay. Oh, and the other thing is we recognized harmonic formulas that appear in countless jazz standards. Like in this instance, it was that minor 2/5, and I showed you how many songs that appears in. Okay, we've barely scratched the surface there. All right, and we've learned how to transpose because we're thinking in functions, not in chord names. Okay, and at first that might be a tricky thing to do, but it's really just a new thing, not necessarily difficult. It takes time, it takes lots of patience, and then in the long run, it's just going to make you fluent. Okay, so all of those skills, they sit under this thing called improvisation. Okay, and they're the reason why some musicians, when they're playing, they sound natural, they sound relaxed, while others feel like they're constantly searching for the right notes. So, remember I told you about the jazz piano pyramid earlier? Okay, that's really why I created or built that pyramid this way. So at the foundation is the jazz piano fundamentals, and this is where we build the essential skills or the essential building blocks for learning jazz. So I'm talking about things like intervals, chord construction, harmonic formulas, chord functions, chord progressions, and basically understanding how tunes are put together. This is where we start learning or taking a song, but playing it through multiple keys, just so that we develop fluency and a full understanding of the music. Once that foundation is strong, we then move into the jazz piano lab, and this is where we develop things like rhythm. In fact, a lot of the things that we covered in this video. So rhythm, voicings that sound advanced, but you now know the secret, right? They're simple voicings, really. We learn about accompanying, which is what the video is all about. We learn about embellishment, and basically all the musical details that can make simple harmony really come to life, and sound human. Right. Once you've established those two first layers, then you can now move to the next layer where you're dealing with improvisation, and then eventually we can start talking about solo piano playing. So just a few notes about that pyramid is it's important to remember you don't climb by skipping from the bottom. You want to make sure that everything is systematic and step by step. You don't want to leave any gaps in your learning. You want to make sure you've got a very solid foundation and something strong enough so that you don't start struggling with solo piano playing later on. So if you're struggling to improvise, please don't immediately go and start looking for another scale or another lick or another book. Maybe you should start asking yourself a different question. Maybe, can I actually accompany something like Summertime? Can I play it well? Maybe well enough so that I can make a singer sound really good, Because if you can actually do that, you're going to discover that improvisation isn't really something that's that separate or something that's that far away from accompaniment. Actually, improvisation grows out of your ability to accompany, because if you can play the chords, it's going to be pretty easy to play everything else. Okay, so hopefully you enjoy this video, and if you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments. I'd really love to hear your approach. Please also do let me know what things you're struggling with regards to improvisation, because my next course from here, this is course number 2, by the way, the Jazz Piano Lab. I am in the process of creating a jazz improvisation course, which I'll be releasing sometime soon. So please let me know if there are any particular topics that you'd like me to cover, and then I'm going to put those in that course, and I'll keep you posted on the results. If you want a head start to learning jazz, please download my free ebook, which I'm going to put in the description. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do me a favor and click that subscribe button. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. And if you're really serious about going to the next level, please check out the Jazz Piano Fundamentals course to build your solid foundation, and the Jazz Piano Lab if you've already got a foundation and now you really want to make it solid and you want to become good at accompanying, just like we're doing in this video. Okay, so all the best with your practice, and I hope to see you in the next video.